Hello, I'm Christopher Thompson, and welcome to another edition of Chris Speaks. Today we're going to speak on climate change. And a lot of politicians and people who know nothing about science and people who do blogs and stuff, a lot of them want you to believe that there's some kind of debate on climate change. And there is and there isn't. There's no debate in the scientific community itself. It's more usually the politicians. And speaking of which, it looks like our great president Donald Trump has pulled out of the Paris Accords on climate change, which is a huge step backwards on progress towards ending climate change. And the climate deniers, they act like there's a serious debate in the scientific community, which there is not. It was like 98% of scientists agree that climate change is not only real, but is man-made. And nowadays they're like, if you want to talk about PC, is that the climate deniers demand to be called skeptics. But they're not skeptics, because skepticism is based on facts, and you're skeptic because something doesn't agree with the facts. But when what you're disagreeing with is the facts, it's not skepticism, it's just flat out denial of something that is a fact. And there's a guy, I was watching this documentary. Well, it's like an episode of some show on Al Jazeera America, and this is what one of the scientists this is how his scenario on how what climate change denial is like. And he said, say you're in a mall and there's a guy, he grabs his chest and he collapses and he falls down, and you have 9 doctors that say, hey, you need to get medical treatment immediately. And then there's a guy that says, well, hey, I do this blog. I'm not a doctor and I don't know anything about medicine, but you should just don't worry about it. Just wait a couple of days, and then if you feel bad, then go to the hospital. Who are you going to believe? The 9 doctors or the one guy who doesn't know anything about it? Or are you going to believe that it's this big, huge conspiracy of doctors to tell this guy he's having heart problems? Utterly ridiculous. That thing is like Trump is lying and saying that he doesn't believe in climate change. He believes in it. He says he doesn't, but if he didn't think climate change is real, then why is he spending money to build a seawall around one of his golf courses in Scotland? Because the sea's rising because of climate change, but yet he says he's in denial. And what was his thing? His thing is always, well, we're going to get all this job-killing regulations, because that's why they regulate things, to kill jobs. Here's the thing on that. That's here's an easy way to debunk that. When they take away regulations, there isn't suddenly a flood of all these jobs opening. Because if regulations were job killers, if we got rid of regulations, like they say, there'll be more jobs, but there never are. Instead, we're going to deny. There's people that are in denial of it, and most of the denial comes from the fossil fuel companies and people who work for them and people who invest in them and people who are spokespersons for that. And many of the spokespersons that come in there to tell you that it's not true are some of the same people that were telling you that the same lobbyists that were telling you that tobacco did not cause cancer, that there was nothing wrong with tobacco. But let's believe these guys. Let's believe petroleum geologists and weathermen and maybe the occasional quack person who's a physicist who thinks that there needs to be more CO2. We're looking at it, it's a reality, and what we're looking at is if we don't do something now, and start moving off of fossil fuels into things like alternative fuels for cars, more wind and solar power, we're just going to destroy this planet. And then you hear every once in a while you hear a politician like Michelle Bachmann say how, oh, CO2 is a harmless gas. Okay, well, if you think CO2 is a harmless gas, put yourself in a sealed room. We'll fill it full of carbon dioxide, and you can see how harmless it is. It's so harmless that you will die. That's how harmless CO2 is. It's so harmless that if you fill a room with CO2, you will die. And there's no doubt about it. And you got these deniers, and they keep going with this stuff. And now that we have a president in the White House that's basically saying either one, it's not true, or saying it is true and I just don't give a crap, because short-term profits are more important than the future generations, and many people in my generation are going to see horrible things happen because of the climate change. And you got all these things like, okay, these people come up with, oh, the medieval warm period. Well, the medieval warm period is a dumb example to use, because if you actually do the study, and I actually started researching this because I was dealing with people that were deniers that were lying about things, and, well, guess what? The medieval warm period was a regional phenomenon. It was not hotter. The global temperatures were not hotter than they are now. And they use a lot of these examples that don't mean anything. They use them, and if you really looked into them, it's bull. And I'm sorry, no, we need less CO2, not more CO2. And CO2 is not harmless. Carbon dioxide is not just something that we should have more of. Yes, trees breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out carbon dioxide. But if the certain concentration of CO2 in the air gets too far out of whack, guess what? The trees are going to flip around, and they're going to breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. And another thing we don't think about is, okay, well, one of the things is there's natural sinks for the carbon dioxide, one of which is the ocean. But the ocean itself has become so acidified because of the carbon in it that it's sucked up, that it's becoming carbonic acid, and that acid, that more acidicness, is destroying things with shells like the coral reef, stuff that's made out of calcium, because carbonic acid eats through calcium. And so you got all this sea life that's dying, and then more acidic temperatures. We're seeing like massive reproduction by jellyfish, which we don't need 1 billion jellyfish in the ocean. Because of the acidicness, they thrive in it. And some of the creatures that we need to be in our ecosystem are going to die because of too much carbon in the air that it pushes it into the ocean. And we're going to see more sea rise. We're going to see more melting of the ice caps. We're going to see, and then, man, some of these glaciers, when they melt, they're going to let out a bunch of methane or some kind of plague that could be under the ice for like 1 million years, ready to freaking wipe out civilization or something. That is a little far-fetched, but it could happen. But the main thing is we're sitting here and we're acting like there's no kind of, that it's not real, that there's no repercussions for our actions, and there are. And then, I'll try to wrap it up pretty soon. One of the things they always claim, though, is that, oh, well, their predictions are wrong. Yes, they are. But here's the kicker, is that they've been wrong because their predictions were way too conservative, and the damage that's ended up being done is way more than they expected it to be. But you can either... Now here's the thing, okay, say it's a hoax, which it isn't, but say that it's not true and it's not happening. Okay, so you switch to fossil fuels, the industry changes over in time to bring their workers there and still have jobs. We get all these jobs in renewable fuel, renewable resources, people that do the jobs. We switch it over, and the worst thing that happens is we get fresh air and we have a planet that's better. We get rid of this pollution and stuff. Worst case scenario, if we do nothing about it and it's true, we're screwed. There's nothing there. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And we're getting to the point of no return, where it gets to a certain amount of the CO2 concentration, and then it's just no matter what we do from that point on, isn't going to do anything. So we need to start now and not pretend that it's not real. And I mean, really, we're going to listen to oil companies and politicians with money in the oil companies and the coal and all this stuff, and we're going to listen to them instead of scientists, because you can't trust the scientists because they get paid to do their job. Seriously. This has been an argument that they keep lying about climate change to keep getting the grants that keep paying them. So in order to get paid, they're somehow conspiring against everybody. Utterly ridiculous. There's a term called Occam's razor. The most likely answer is usually the real answer. The more complicated answer is usually not. So, to come up with this huge conspiracy that all these scientists in the world are conspiring against the poor public and the poor corporations because they're so mistreated. They're so mistreated that the corporations are considered people. Well, I don't know. It's just, I haven't talked about this, and this is a serious thing, and we've got this government in here now that's totally in denial of climate change, that's defunding EPA. We got a guy that's head of the Environmental Protection Agency that's helping destroy the environment that it's supposed to protect, because we've got some guy from the fossil fuel companies, retired CEO, running the EPA, just like we have a person who doesn't know anything about education heading education. The presidential cabinet we got in there is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment, and it's a danger to America and the world. And we got a guy who, if the media criticizes me, it's fake. If the media kisses my butt, it's real news. The real news is climate change is real. It's man-made. There's no doubt about it. Nobody who really knows what they're talking about doubt it. I mean, there's two people. I couldn't think of the names right now. It's been a long time since I looked it up, but there's several people who were climate change denial people that did the research and changed their mind. I think Glenn Beck actually changed his mind on climate change, which is a trip, because that guy's kind of wacko, and he was the last person I thought would do that. That would change his mind. But seriously, if they really do the research, they're going to change your mind. One guy, he wasn't a scientist, but there was one of the big guys who was the biggest denier for a long time, and he's wrote several books of it. Bjorn Lomborg. He totally flipped on it and now says that climate change is real and man-made. And there was another guy who was actually a scientist, and he had been denying it for years and years and years. And then he came back and said, well, look, I've done the research, and they're right. The global warming is real. It's caused by man-made stuff. Because if you review the data, you look over it, it is real. It is really going on. There's no conspiracy of scientists. Why would scientists conspire? That's utterly ridiculous. Stop listening to people like Alex Jones tell you stuff like this. Yeah, because according to Alex Jones, the the scientists are conspiring against everyone because they're Jewish or something like that. I mean, seriously, this guy, like, okay, because I used to think he did have some stuff about Zionists, and I don't care for Zionist people, but he somehow turned it into the Jews are part of this big, whatever. I don't even want to bring up that idiot. But anyways, that's all I have to say about climate change, and I mean, hang in there, guys. I'll see you next time. See what I figure out to talk about next time. I've been doing a lot more of these videos. I don't know how many people are saying it because, well, anyways, I'm making it too long and I'm going off the subject. Well, I'll see you guys.